The very so sad loudly crying informations to Church of Jesus Christ. Prominent, queer affirming, theologian facing trial by Church of the Nazarene. The Rev.Thomas J.Oord is accused of teaching doctrines contrary to the Church of the Nazarene. The first two openly gay and married bishops in the United Methodist Church were elected to their positions under a cloud. The denomination's rulebook did not allow LGBTQ+ people to be ordained, much less consecrated as bishops. Prominent, queer affirming, theologian facing trial by Church of the Nazarene. The Rev.Thomas J.Oord is accused of teaching doctrines contrary to the Church of the Nazarene. A prominent and prolific theologian in the Church of the Nazarene will face a church trial later this month for advocating for LGBTQ affirmation at a time when the denomination is doubling down on its opposition to same-sex relations. The Rev.Thomas J.Oord, an ordained elder and a lifelong member of the denomination, is accused of teaching doctrines contrary to the Church of the Nazarene. He is also being charged with conduct unbecoming of a minister for his efforts to move the denomination to affirm LGBTQ people. The Church holds that the practice of same-sex sexual intimacy is contrary to God's will. If found guilty, Oord could lose his preaching credentials or possibly even his church membership. His trial will take place in Boise, Idaho, on July 25. The trial follows last year's guilty verdict against a San Diego Nazarene minister who published an essay in a book co-edited by Oord, titled, "Why the Church of the Nazarene Should Be Fully LGBTQ+ Affirming," arguing that the church should have more dialogue on LGBTQ issues. That minister, the Reverend Sheldon Kelly, who pastored San Diego's First Church of the Nazarene, was stripped of his credentials and can no longer pastor a church or hold any position of leadership within the Church of the Nazarene. Oord, who in 2015 was pushed out of his job at Northwest Nazarene University for his progressive views more generally, said the church tried to gag him into keeping silent about his upcoming trial. He has decided to speak publicly about it anyway. 2 weeks ago he published a book called My Defense, responding to charges that I fully affirm LGBTQ+ people. Church of the Nazarene headquarters in Lenexa, Con. Photo courtesy of Wikimedia Creative Commons. "I'm convinced that I won't get fair treatment going through the trial process," Oord said. "And I want most of all to make a defense based on theology, not based on the legal nuances of the denomination's manual." Oord has written widely that love is the center of what it means to follow Jesus and that love lies at the heart of holiness. Holiness is a critical doctrine of the Church of the Nazarene, which was formed out of the 19th century Wesleyan holiness movement. The 2.5 million member global denomination is theologically conservative and has seen more growth overseas. It is declining in the U.S., where it has about 500,000 members in 4,600 churches. The Reverend Scott Shaw, the district superintendent of the Intermountain District Church of the Nazarene who brought the charges against Oord, declined to comment on trial. The church, which is governed by 6 elected general superintendents, last year put out a statement that the church's positions on human sexuality, along with other positions on Christian character and conduct found in its manual or rulebook, were essentially doctrine. This tightening of a church's social policies and elevating them to the status of doctrine has also characterized recent moves in the Christian Reformed Church. The United Methodist Church, to which the Church of the Nazarene is more theologically akin, both trace their origin to John Wesley, underwent a major split over LGBTQ inclusion, losing 25% of its U.S. churches and more recently all its churches in the Ivory Coast of Africa. At its most recent conference, the church voted to repeal the denomination's condemnation of homosexuality from its rulebook and allow LGBTQ people to be ordained and ministers in the denomination to marry same-sex couples. Oord said he became queer affirming in the early 1990s and spent the next few decades helping queer students at Eastern Nazarene College and later at Northwest Nazarene University feel embraced and loved. He now directs Doctor of Ministry students at Northwind Theological Seminary, an online-only school. His daughter, Alexa, with whom he co-edited, why the Church of the Nazarene should be fully LGBTQ+ affirming, is bisexual. Oord said he believes the majority of scholars in the Nazarene-affiliated universities and seminaries are LGBTQ affirming but won't say so publicly because they fear for their jobs. One of them, K. Steve McCormick, a professor emeritus at Nazarene Theological Seminary, is expected to testify on Oord's behalf at the trial. Last year, a dean at Point Loma Nazarene University, Mark Maddox, was fired for siding with a colleague who lost her job, also for siding with LGBTQ rights. Church trials are a recent phenomenon in the denomination, said Ron Benefiel, an academic and a minister in the denomination. He said he anticipated that if Oord is found guilty there will be an appeal. Oord said he is speaking out against the guidance of the church because he wants to encourage queer people and their allies and because he wants to make a theological case for LGBTQ inclusion. I really want to see the denomination live up to the calling of love that it claims that we're trying to pursue, Oord said. It's my belief that love requires people who are trying to be followers of Jesus to be fully affirming of queer people. United Methodists elect a third openly gay, married bishop. Kristin Stoneking will replace Bishop Karen Oliveto, the denomination's first openly gay married bishop, who, at age 66, is retiring. The Reverend. Kristin Stoneking speaks after being elected Bishop of the United. The Reverend. Kristin Stoneking speaks after being elected Bishop of the United Methodist Church's Western Jurisdiction on July 12, 2024, in Spokane, Washington. Published on July 16, 2024. The first two openly gay and married bishops in the United Methodist Church were elected to their positions under a cloud. The denomination's rulebook did not allow LGBTQ+ people to be ordained, much less consecrated as bishops. But for the first time in its history, the United Methodist Church has elected a third openly gay and married bishop, this time in the clear light of day. Kristin Stoneking, an ordained pastor and the Associate Professor of United Methodist Studies and Leadership at Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California, was elected bishop last week in the Western jurisdiction of the church. Her election comes 3 months after the United Methodists voted at their General Conference to eliminate all restrictions on the full participation of queer members. Stoneking will oversee some 300 churches in the denomination's Mountain Sky Conference, which includes congregations in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah and a small part of Idaho. She will be based in Denver. We're not done trying to make sure that the world is a welcoming and caring place for everyone, and that includes LGBTQ persons, Stoneking said. Related. With a final flourish, United Methodist Conference eliminates all anti-LGBTQ policies. Following the departure of 25% of its U.S. churches who left over disagreements over LGBTQ+ inclusion, the United Methodist Church agreed at its General Conference it would not add any more bishops over the next 4 years. But in the weeks following the convention, one bishop decided to retire and another took long-term disability, leaving 2 unexpected vacancies. The Western jurisdiction of the church had 2 already planned bishop retirements in need of replacement and had hoped for a transfer of 2 bishops from other regions. But when it became apparent the denomination was down 2 additional bishops, the Western jurisdiction decided to elect 2 new bishops, Stoneking and Sandra K. Olwine. Olwine will serve the California-Nevada Conference. Stoneking will replace Bishop Karen Oliveto, the denomination's first openly gay married bishop, who, at age 66, is retiring. The Western Jurisdictional Conference elected the Rev. Karen Oliveto. On the 17th ballot, the Western Jurisdiction elected the Rev. Karen Oliveto to the episcopacy of the United Methodist Church in 2016. Photo by Patrick Scriven, United Methodist Church PNW Conference. Oliveto was elected to the Western jurisdiction in 2016 in defiance of denominational rules that did not allow LGBTQ+ ordination. Then, in 2022, the Western jurisdiction, the most liberal in the denomination, once again defied church rules and elected an openly gay married Bishop Cedric D. Bridgeforth. He serves the Greater Northwest Conference that spans Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, Washington and small parts of Montana and Canada. At April's General Conference meeting in Charlotte, North Carolina, United Methodists voted to repeal their denomination's condemnation of homosexuality from its rulebook. For 52 years, the rulebook had stated that the practice of homosexuality was incompatible with Christian teaching. At that same meeting, it dropped a ban on the ordination of gay clergy and eliminated a provision that forbade its ministers from officiating at same-sex marriages. Stoneking is among the first to benefit from the lifting of all those restrictions. An estimated 324 UMC clergy or candidates for ordination are gay. Of those, about 160 are in same-sex marriages, many of them performed outside the church and in private because of the restrictions. The Rev. Kristin Stoneking was elected bishop in the United Methodist Church on July 12, 2024, and will serve in the Mountain Sky Conference beginning Sept. The Rev. Kristin Stoneking was elected bishop in the United Methodist Church on July 12, 2024, and will serve in the Mountain Sky Conference beginning Sept. Stoneking is married to Elizabeth Campy, and they have 2 children. The two met at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois, and have been together as a couple for 32 years. She has served as a local church pastor, district superintendent and campus minister. Most recently, Stoneking taught United Methodist students at Pacific School of Religion the denomination's history, polity and doctrine. From 2013 to 2107, she was the National Executive Director of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, the oldest interfaith peace and justice organization in the United States. Now as bishop, Stoneking said her first priority is to help the church restructure the worldwide denomination to give each region greater equity in tailoring church life to its own customs and traditions, a plan known as regionalization. Regionalization would allow equal standing to its worldwide regions, including Africa, Europe, the Philippines and the United States, to set their own rules on various issues, including LGBTQ+ rights. Each conference or region must ratify the new regionalization plan in the coming year for it to formally pass. Many in the church believe regionalization is the last and best option to avoid further schisms on matters of same-sex marriage and ordination of LGBTQ+ people. There is a tremendous spirit of openness and possibility in the United Methodist Church right now, Stoneking said. I am very excited about that. God bless you for following these statements. You have to decide about the truth. Deuteronomy 23:17-18. 17 There shall be no cult prostitute among the daughters of Israel, neither shall there be a cult prostitute, a sodomite, among the sons of Israel. 18 You shall not bring the hire of a harlot or the price of a dog, a sodomite, into the house of the Lord your God as payment of a vow, for both of these, the gift and the giver, are an abomination to the Lord your God. Jesus Christ love be upon you. God bless you. This article was prepared by Ndayishimiye Alphonse for Apostle TV.